Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be doing a pretty gnarly looking broken leg special effects. So here we go. So you just want to take some Vaseline or some moisturizer and make a very thin layer of where you want your special effects trauma to be. Just want to do this to protect your skin from any latex or product that you're going to be using. Next, just get some white latex or whatever kind of latex you can find on Amazon. It's actually pretty cheap. If you want to go pro, they do have some really good types of latex that is thicker and more involved for special effects. So you just want to put a very thin layer on the area where you want your wound to be, and take some tissue paper. Make sure it's one ply, so if you have tissue that's more than one ply, you're just going to want to rip that in half and just start applying it on your leg. Take some more latex and stipple around the edges just to seal that on there. Don't worry if there's any wrinkles or anything in the middle, because that just will add texture later on to your skin. And there's my dog Drax. Alright, once you got the edges sealed, you're going to want to go in and start to stipple around the middle part of the tissue. And it doesn't really matter if that shit rips, because it's going to be looking like a ripped wound anyway, so don't worry about it. Now we're going to take a blow dryer and we are going to dry the first layer of our latex. You have to dry in between each layer, or else it will just look like one big clump at the end and you will not get that realistic effect. Make sure you pay close attention to any of the areas that may have a little bit thicker of latex, because you want to make sure that's well dry before we move on to your second layer. Rip up some more tissue and start with the second layer. You're going to want to make sure these edges aren't like perfect lines, because then that just won't look natural. So just rip the edges each time. Here we go. Second layer. Start with the edges just like we did the last time. Seal them on nice. Make sure you spread that latex nice and thin, so it gives it more of an effect of skin that's more blended in with the skin underneath, so it doesn't look like chunky. Latex will dry clear, so you don't have to worry about it looking so white. And just keep dabbing it on. This takes patience. You want to build it up. You want to just keep building up, especially when you're making like big flaps. You want to keep building up that tissue paper. And here we go again with the freaking blow dryer. You know, try not to put it on hot like I did that first time, burn the shit out of my leg, but just want to go around and make sure you're drying all of that latex. If it's tacky, then, you know, it's good. You just don't want it to be wet. Here we go with the third layer. Same thing. When you're working with latex, please make sure that you're not allergic to it. Before you just start pouring this crap all over your body, make a little spot check on like your wrist or on your ankle, just to make sure that you don't have any reactions to it. And here we go. Same thing. Dab it around the edges, seal that shit down. Oh, FYI, you're going to definitely want to put some type of coverage underneath wherever you're working on your surface, because if you get this latex on carpet, clothing, whatever, I trust me, you ain't getting this crap out. It is there. Welcome to the party. And I just got sick of waiting, and I just dumped this shit all over the place, and it started to make a mess. But you know what? Whatever, it's all part of the fun. Just make sure you cover this whole part completely. Now look at that. Oh, it's the, yeah, there it is, all over. Ugh. Dripping down my leg. Oh well. I'm gonna just wipe that up with a baby wipe. It's not too bad. Get it before it dries, or else you're gonna be stuck to that. Alright. Nope, never mind. There's still more there. And my dog has had enough of it. He's getting bored. Back to the hairdryer. It takes some time, it takes some patience, but once we get into the painting, it gets fun. Keep checking those parts and make sure they're not really wet. Tacky's okay, but not goopy. I wanted some of the middle part to be extra thick, so I'm putting on just a little bit more layers, so that this is the part where I'm going to cut and split the flaps. The more textured you can get the tissue, the better. It'll make it look more realistic. Oh, same thing. Around the edges, in the middle. Just keep building it up. When we're going down to the bone, to expose the bone, you want the skin to be thick. It won't look realistic if you have like really thin flaps, because that's a pretty deep trauma. Here's my son checking it out. Mom, what the hell are you doing over here? And I swear last time with the blow dryer, make sure we really get this part dry now. Keep checking, especially the parts where you may have put a thicker coating of latex. I give my dog a little blow dry right there. He's like, what the fuck, stop. I don't like that. And almost done. Alright. So we're going to get some translucent powder or baby powder, whatever you got. Cornstarch will work too. And you're just going to want to brush onto the whole area, so that if there's any tackiness, it will help to get it to be a little bit more dry. And that way you can apply your colors. And there I am being an asshole. Okay, here's my bruise wheel. Just gonna start to apply just a little bit of color around the top part of the skin, just to start it off. Just get like a little makeup sponge. I got these from the dollar store. And to give it a little bit more of an effect, to just rip off some pieces of the sponge to, you know, give it a little bit more of texture. You know, just rip this stuff and shoot it all over the place. You can clean up that shit later. Alright, I'm going to dab it in. We'll start with some red. These bruise wheels are awesome to make all kinds of effects. There's no real perfect way to do this. You're just kind of applying some color. You're going to do red, especially in the parts where it looks like there's fresher blood. The darker area is where it's going to either look deeper or old blood. So we're just going to just start to make splotches of this red, just for a base layer. Here I have my Snazaroo face painting kit, and we're just going to get this as a water-based paint. So obviously you need water to activate it. So we're just going to start plopping this all over the place. It's really great to look at pictures as a reference, like trauma pictures you can find. I mean, it's gross, but I mean, it really helps to look at what an actual realistic wound looks like, so you can know where those colors come in and where like the shadows and the highlights should be. Next, I'm going to go in with my bruise wheel with the honey yellow, and that's what we're going to go around where we think like the nasty skin parts would be, you know, where it's like fresh skin kind of gets yellow, and sometimes where it looks like an infection is starting. And we're just going to put some yellow areas around. Also, we're going to put some yellow like around the perimeter of it, so it looks like there's been some bruising. Just gives it some depth. It looks like a fucking mess right now, but I'm telling you, in the end, it really comes together. Like I said, there's no right or wrong way to do this. I mean, the wrong way, you're going to make it look like you painted a rainbow on yourself, but, you know, just a little at a time, just keep building up. I'm going in here with some green, because green and yellow really start to make like a really cool bruising effect. Just go sparingly with this green. You don't want it to look like you got like some fucking ooze or slime going on in there. Unless you want it to look like a zombie type wound. But you know what? Hey, it's your trauma, it's your leg, it's your nasty shit, so you make it how you want to make it. Okay, so now here comes the really fun part. We're going to get like a tweezers, or you can just kind of get your finger in there, and we're going to want to get a hole so that we can begin to rip that shit. Rip it down so it looks gross. Now you can tear it. You don't really want to go like a straight line, because skin doesn't really tear in a straight line unless you're using like a scalpel. So just tear it open. Don't go all the way to the bottom, or else you'll just tear the whole thing off. You want to leave some room on the bottom and the top so that it stays in place really well, and you have a good anchor for that flap. So rip it up. Try to fold it backwards so that we have a good area to work inside of the wound now. Now that you have it split the way you want, we're going to go back in with some latex and put a nice thin layer directly on the skin inside of the wound. I'm going to just get a little piece of tissue paper and put that inside of the wound so it looks like that's where the underlining skin will be, so we can put the fake bone on top of it. So just like we did in the beginning, thin layer, and then go ahead and cover that tissue paper in a very thin layer of the latex. The more crinkles under here, the better. That's the latex I'm using. It was like $15 on Amazon. When I do wounds like this, I'll use the cheap one. If I'm doing anything on my face, though, I get the good one. Alright, I just connected 3 cotton balls because I didn't have like any fake bones or anything. If you have like a bone or even like a plastic fake bone, you can do that. But all I had was some cotton balls, so I just glued 3 of them together. And I placed it where my tibia would be. Try to get the top and the bottom under that little tiny flap. This is where it can get really sticky, because cotton and latex, like, they just want to make a fucking mess together. So You might have to just want to keep having like baby wipes on hand so you can start to wipe off your fingers because it gets everywhere. And again, baby powder helps get away that stickiness. It helps to also put on the flaps just in case they start sticking to each other or sticking to the new latex you applied. So just try to line up that cotton or whatever you're using as your fake bone. Alright, it starts to get a little tricky here. You're going to want to get a full piece of tissue, 1-ply again, and cover the entire wound with it. That way we can get like a layer on top of that cotton so it just doesn't look like cotton, obviously. And this is where it can get tricky. So you want to pour some of the latex over it. I find using the sponge doesn't help because it just keeps lifting the tissue off. So I use my fingers and slowly just kind of slide that latex all over the tissue, trying to cover up that faux bone. This takes practice and patience. You might not get it the first time. The other thing you can do is put some Vaseline on your fingers in between. Sometimes that helps so it doesn't let the latex stick to it so much. It's all trial and error. You'll get it. So once you get it covered up the way you want, rip off all that extra tissue. Wipe that shit off your hands. It's annoying, like really annoying, but it's all part of this. Just keep fixing it. Don't overdo it, because if you try to fix it to make it look perfect, you're gonna just rip that whole thing off. You gotta know when to stop. Okay, now you're gonna take some like extra tissue and you're gonna put it around the bone to make it look like really nasty flesh that's been like ripped off of that skin underneath. It gives it like a really cool texture and depth so that when you're done it looks like, you know, you're looking underneath where the bone was. You don't want it to look like you just got like some freaking cotton and shit sitting on top of your leg. That's just not going to look realistic. So again, just keep building it up. And I'm just using the bottom of a paintbrush to push in some of that skin underneath. Ripple it to effect where it makes it look like torn flesh. Try to keep that bone nice and straight. That's what she said. And here we go, back with the latex. You want to cover this whole thing now with latex. Get it all nice and wet. That's what she said. Pay special attention to those edges so that they don't lift up. You really want to get that saturated with the latex, but not too much where you get like pools, because that will just take forever to dry and you won't get your colors to stick to it. Alright, let's try to get all this stuff off our hands. Look at that, it's disgusting and it's annoying, but just try to get as much as you can off right now. And here we go with the hairdryer again. Hairdryer, although a pain in the ass, it really cuts your time down more than half, because if you were to sit there and just wait for it to dry, it would be like 2021. I mean, yeah, all the shit will be over with, and God knows, you know, what will be happening next. But you just want this to go as fast as you can. So that's what it looks like right now. Nothing special. Make sure you just get all those edges. Remember, tacky is okay, but you don't want it to, if you touch it, you don't want there to be latex on your fingers, because then you're going to mess up all your brushes and it's just not going to look right. Alright, now I'm going back in with my Snazaroo face painting palette. Your favorite colors here are going to be red and black. That's what you're going to be using mainly. And just start going in there. Lots of red, lots of black. Make sure you get you use like the edges of underneath the bone, get some black in there, because that's where it's the deepest. And the deepest is always going to be the darkest. And don't worry, in the beginning it's just going to look like, you know, like a 2-year-old painted this, but once you start blending the colors and adding all the fake blood, it really will come together. Don't forget to paint those flaps. Sorry, just every time I say flaps, it just grosses me out, right? Don't forget to paint those flaps. You know, you really want to get like some yellow, so it looks kind of like the fat of the skin, and red, obviously, so it looks like blood, but don't leave those alone. You don't really got to do too much to the underneath of the flaps, because you're not really going to see that, but you want to just get as much of the color on there as you can, just to give it a really cool, funky, gnarly, split, and gross, goriness. Have fun with it. You gotta have fun with this. I mean, you know. My son in the background making his noises. Alright, so just go all around. This is the fun part where, you know what, you just take your hands and go in there. Really smudge it around. You want it to look dirty. You know, God knows what just happened. You don't want the rest of the skin around you to just look like, you know, you just took a shower. I mean, you want it to look gross. You want it to look like you like rolled around in a bunch of dirt and shit. I mean, smear it around in there. Don't worry, this will all come off. You don't have to worry about like your leg being stained. It'll come off. Just don't be using like permanent paint, and you'll be fine. Always use makeup grade, like, you know, stuff that you can put on your skin. I don't know the good term of it right now. I haven't had enough coffee yet in the morning. And just keep going. And don't worry about how that bone just looks like super friggin' white right now. We'll get to that. I know it looks very unnaturally white. Alright, so right here I just took some agave syrup and I added some red food coloring to it. It makes a really good like wet drippy blood, and I'm just gonna like squirt this shit all over the place. It's sticky, yeah. Make sure if like your brush that you're using is dedicated to like that. You don't want to be using this brush for like paints later on. You can like splatter it on. This is the fun part. You really want it to like look wet. You want it to look like a fresh split open wound. Again, use your fingers and smear it all over the place. As you can see, it's really starting to come together now. My kids just woke up, so if you hear any background noise, it's them. Alright, so just, you know, kind of easily adjust the bone, make sure it's still sitting straight there. Go around, use any finishing touches with the smearing as you can. Looking funky. Alright, this is the cool part. I have some Mayron of these coagulated blood you can get on Amazon. It's really cool. It adds like awesome special effects to your wounds. It's extremely thick and extremely fucking sticky. It's hard to apply, so you just have to kind of do a little at a time. But you won't. This is really good for like the parts that look really deep, where the blood has pooled and like thickened, and it really gives that extra cool special effect. This is some gnarly stuff. It's not really that cheap, but I think it's worth it, especially when you have these deep, huge wounds and like cuts and flaps. I think it really makes it look like that much better. Now my son's coming over and being like, Mom, what the hell are you doing? They're used to their mom being nuts, so honestly, it's nothing new for them. It's so easy to go overboard with this stuff, but just put it in the places where, you know, you think it would look the best. And then like I'm doing, just like rub it down so it looks like parts have dripped and oozed. Have fun with it. Alright, I think I'm pretty much done. I'm looking around to see if I can do anything else, but I think I'm pretty satisfied with the way it looks. It looks freaking gross and awesome, and time to go scare my kids. Look at that. Blah, 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 blah. Flap, flap, flap. Oh, God. There we go. And there is your exposed tibia fracture. And, I mean, it doesn't get much grosser than that. I mean, look at that. And that's cotton. I mean, come on, it looks pretty freaking real to me. Looks like you got like nasty burn around it, road rash. It's dirty, it's gross, it's awesome. Flap. So, I mean, if you have any questions or anything you want me to go over anything else more in detail with you, or if you want to know what kind of products I've used and where exactly, you know, you can get them, just leave me a comment, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can with that. Like, subscribe, show your friends, you know, start practicing. It's almost Halloween. You got plenty of time to get good at this nasty shit. Have fun. Got nothing else to do, right? We're just sitting home in quarantine, so why not make your leg look like it's been busted open with a bomb? I mean, why not? Thanks for watching. Hope to see you guys again. Have a great day. And you know what? It's alright to be crazy sometimes. See you later.